Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday.
Y'all forgive me this morning. Y'all forgive me. My internet don't like me this morning, and it wants me to put pause on it. I'm so sorry. For anybody who might have heard me in my not brightest moment about 34 seconds ago, I do apologize.
And I don't edit nothing. I leave it all. I'm raw. I'm like, you know what? They need to hear all the shenanigans so that they know that we are human therapists, that we are human sports advocates, we are human mental health awareness advocates. Look, folks, I'm Dr. Lauren Pitts, sports family therapist, licensed marriage and family therapist. This is House Talk Pregame. That crazy fool.
Welcome back to episode. I believe this is episode 122. I need to go back. I think this is 122.
Yeah.
I was telling Dr. Pitts before we started, I feel like this has been the slowest, fastest week in a while. Like it felt like the first part of the week went by really slow, then like the middle of the week sped up, and then it kind of went back slow again. So
it's like somebody trying to learn how to drive a stick.
Or right, yeah.
When you first learned how to drive it, you hitting the brake. Hitting the brake and again. Oh my God. He just jerking
it.
Oh
man.
In the parking lot around the school. Ooh, don't give him the license. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. I remember the first time I tried
Saturday,
to drive
people. Happy Saturday.
I remember the first time I tried to drive a stick shift. Yeah, I see. Speaking of the draft, I see the Buffalo Bills jumped up a pick before y'all and took y'all's person. But I mean, y'all seem like y'all got a decent pick. It seems like the Eagles, the rich keep on getting richer.
Yeah, the Eagles they're loading up the deck on us.
That defensive line is about to be, oh my God, their defense is gonna be elite. Like now we'll say this though. I will say this though about the Eagles, and we talked about this. Well,
because you said that they lost some coaches, or they lost a bunch.
They lost both OCs. They lost their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and they basically lost their entire defensive staff. So they have a whole brand new defensive staff. But I think the one thing about where the Eagles are at this state of their franchise is they have a lot of veteran presence. They were able to keep a lot of their veterans on the team. Like you got Fletcher Cox, you got what's the other dude? I think he's number 97. I can't think of his name.
Graham.
Yeah, Graham.
Brandon Graham.
So you got a lot of those veterans on there, and then you got Jordan Davis that was at Georgia last year. You got Nakobe Dean who was at Georgia last year. They just added 2 more Georgia.
Their whole team is Georgia.
Literally. I seen somebody have the Eagles logo with the Georgia as the Georgia G as the G for the Eagles.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it really just goes to show you how much talent Georgia really has on their defensive side of the ball. So yeah, it's been an interesting draft. I think the most interesting pick so far of the draft, in my opinion, I think the Colts took a gamble at number 4 with Anthony Richardson. I think phenomenal talent, obviously, got a cannon on his right arm, can jump out the gym, fast, very mobile, very athletic. I've seen they've been throwing around the comparisons of him being like Donovan McNabb, which I think, probably we'll see if that's an accurate, comparison. Donovan McNabb was very successful in his own right. The one thing I will say that I am optimistic about Anthony Richardson is that the Colts actually got the Eagles offensive coordinator this coming season. So off jump, I would imagine with him and Jonathan Taylor, I would imagine you're probably going to see a lot of similarities in which the Eagles ran last year in their hybrid offense, kind of mixing up a lot of quarterback design runs, quarterback design powers, which will also help Jonathan Taylor out too, because for the last 2 seasons, he's been the bell cow. So now you kind of have like a pseudo running back as your quarterback who can help take some of that relief off of Jonathan and keep the defensive honest, especially when they run some of the RPO and stuff like that, some of those type of plays and everything. So I think that was phenomenal. The Steelers, we got a dog. Oh my God.
They said, because y'all got TJ, right?
We got TJ Watt, but
they were talking about the being able to give the Watt brother. Which?
Paris Johnson, the left tackle. Oh, go
Yeah,
look
y'all.
at it.
I said,
Go,
because I thought I meant to text you. I'm like, sit down.
Hey, look, I always tell people, I don't care what nobody says about football highlights. There is nothing better than watching offensive lineman highlights during the draft. Oh my God. When I saw we drafted Paris Johnson, I was, dog, 6'7", 330, dancing bear. Like, I mean, literally a dancing bear. He's 6'7", 330 and ran a 5.0140. Man can
Freight
move.
train.
Yeah, what? Hey, look, you see somebody like that running at you, you just side shuffle out the way. You just you go, oh, let me get out the way real quick. Like that's a lot of man coming at you at one time.
Yeah, man.
A lot of man. But
I did notice that. I was like, there's some big boys in the draft. I mean, there's always, but I was like, these some big men.
Right. Shout out to I just lost my train of thought. Who was I about to shout out in the draft? Not the draft, but shout out to Lamar Jackson, got his money.
Yeah, he did.
And shout out to
got
Mama
all
Jackson
that paper.
Too. Yeah.
He got all that paper.
Yeah, he saved his little 6%. It is what it is. It's cool. No, 3%. I think NFL agents get 3%.
Yeah. What you think about them getting Odell? Yeah, man.
I hope he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy, it's gonna be ridiculous.
And the receiver they just drafted, Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Mm-hmm. He's a speed receiver and a possession receiver.
Yeah, it's gonna be funky.
They look really, and they got a linebacker too. They had got a linebacker in the 3rd round or something like that, I think, or DB or linebacker. So and then you got Aaron Rodgers. He went to the Jets this week too.
Yeah.
The AFC is going to be loaded. The AFC is going to be absolutely loaded. If you come out of the AFC, you most likely will probably win the Super Bowl. Like
it's going to be interesting, this thing.
It's going to be really interesting.
You know what I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to throw it out there real quick because we look at everything with our clinical hat, right? And I forget the boy's name. The Kentucky quarterback.
Oh, Will Levis.
I was watching him deflate.
Oh yeah.
My heart broke.
It happens every year. It almost happens every single year.
Yeah, because I'm like, you could just see the air leaving him. And it was like every time he didn't get called. And it was like by the time the night was over, the look on his face, and you could see his anxiety was like he was antsy, he couldn't sit still.
I would imagine it also gets a little bit of
girlfriend beside.
I would imagine it all gets a little bit embarrassing too.
Yeah. It was. I was like, okay, he's gonna need support because it was so evident that his whole demeanor, everything, just shifted, and you could just see that gray blanket just come over.
From what I was reading, apparently his persona rubbed a lot of teams the wrong way. He was getting some of the Johnny Manziel comparisons. He was getting some of the Baker Mayfield comparisons, some of the Jared Goff comparisons.
Okay.
Basically these quarterbacks who come in and they love playing football, but they're not in love with playing football.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. The one thing that the NFL values the most is, an athlete's need to be a part of the NFL.
Right.
So I think in his case, because he had a decent season. He has the build. He has, he's a prototypical quarterback, got the size, the build, the arm. They say he might have the intellect and whatnot. But I think too, we'll see how it goes. I think he got picked up by Tennessee. Tennessee might be
Tennessee finally got him.
To do something with him.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for him. I would have said this: if Carolina would have drafted him at number 1, like a lot of people had started floating the day of the draft,
right.
I wouldn't have watched the rest of it. I'd have turned the TV off.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. He was the lonesome dove.
Yeah.
On the stage, I peeped that.
It reminded me of Lamar Jackson, his draft when he was the last one in the green room. Aaron Rodgers had that same fate happen. He dropped all the way to pick number 24 to Green Bay when they thought he was going to be a top 3 pick. We've seen it happen, I would imagine, especially for Will Levis, I would imagine by probably pick number 15. Like it's kind of like, all right,
What's
who
going
gonna
on?
come?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, shout out to him for being drafted. Shout out to all the NFL players who have been drafted in the first 3 rounds. I think
Yeah.
rounds 4 through 7 are today.
At
We'll see a
starting
lot
at
of
11,
our
12 noon. This
yeah,
12
we'll see a
noon
lot of
East Coast.
our possible HBCU alum getting a chance to be drafted. And some of those alum include we got Mark Evans II, offensive lineman out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. He's looking somewhere between the late rounds. Oh, actually, they say as early as the 3rd round. So I wonder if he did get picked up or not in the 3rd round yesterday.
I don't
We got
remember us
Isaiah.
saying anything about an
I don't
HBC player getting
either.
drafted last night.
Yeah, me neither. Isaiah Land, linebacker out of FAMU. He's looking at a possible late round pick. We got Kamari Averett, tight end of Bethune-Cookman. We got Aubrey Miller, and if people were watching closely at Jackson State last year, he was the lead linebacker for Jackson State. Phenomenal player, great nose for the ball. And we also have Shaquan Davis, wide receiver from South Carolina State. Now, for those who had a chance to watch the Celebration Bowl, got a chance to see him shine and everything in that game as well too. And we got Jordan Lewis, defensive lineman out of Southern. We got Jadakiss Bonds of Hampton. That's a dope first name too.
Keyshawn Moore from Hampton too. He's a defensive end.
Okay, word. Okay, shout out to Hampton.
Yeah.
We got Xavier Smith of FAMU on the watch board. We got Sundiata Anderson, defensive lineman from Grambling State. Shout out to Graham.
Jason Dumas Southern.
I don't even want to say this next person name because of where they play at, but I'm gonna shout him out anyway because he's in this position. Shout out to Joshua Pryor, defensive lineman from Bowie State University.
He's so ignorant. Can't take you nowhere,
from Bowie
man.
State University. And we have next Emmanuel Wilson, running back from Fort Valley State. And I know Fort Valley State's colors was blue, white, and yellow. I thought they was green. That must be I'm just thinking Mississippi Valley. We got Isaiah Bolden from Jackson State. We got Andrew Farmer from Lane College. Okay, shout out Lane. Okay, word. We got Ronnie Thomas, linebacker from Mississippi Valley State. We got Keyshawn Moore, D lineman from Hampton that you mentioned. And that's it. So shout out to those 16 gentlemen. Well, 15. I hope you all get to experience that accomplishment of reaching the NFL, having your dreams realized. And with anything, we always say with any goal that you achieve, the next thing is that's where the real work begins.
Yeah, indeed.
So
and that's what a lot of the recruits were saying, that they were, when they were doing the little one-on-one interviews, they were like, it's time to go to work.
Yeah. You don't just work that hard to get there. You work that hard to belong there. So,
and to stay.
Right.
And to stay.
So shout out to those individuals for that.
Yeah.
As we transition, well, I know we didn't necessarily mention our topic and everything. So forgive us for that. We started talking right about football, but we do have a great topic lined up for everybody today. Kobe Bryant has a famous quote, and I love it. Is when his younger years, and they always say there's no I in team, but there's a me in that MF though. So we're gonna be talking about what it means to really be a teammate, a team leader, and what to look out for in possible teammates who can be a cancer to the team, and how you can kind of mitigate that and eliminate some of those things and really strengthen your team. So we're gonna get into that topic in a few. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and I wanted your thoughts on it too. So for those who've been watching the NBA playoffs this postseason, we just saw that the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks just got gentlemen swept by the Miami Heat. Shout out to Playoff Jimmy. Playoff Jimmy is just absolutely phenomenal. He has been on a tear. But one of the things that came from that, so the Bucks lost, and the Bucks were the one of the top 3 favorites beginning of the season. Going into the playoffs, they had the best record in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
They had the highest odds of winning the championship based off all the sports betting books and stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time the playoffs are over with and they come out with the all NBA teams, the Bucks are going to have at least 3 people on the all NBA teams and at least 3 players on the all defensive teams. So I say all that to say the Bucks are very loaded. Phenomenal team. They just won the title 2 years ago. Phenomenal. And they arguably have the greatest player in the world right now, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Giannis, so after the game, went to the podium, and one of the reporters asked Giannis, do you consider this season a failure? And for all those who have been on social media, I'm pretty sure everybody has seen, Giannis's response, talking about, what is failure, what is success, and things like that. And I'm going to, summarize his message, but in so many words, Giannis was saying that he basically told it that he's like, every year in your job, if you don't get a promotion, was that a failure of a year for you? No. Every time you go get something, do you get rewarded for it? No. Does that mean it's a failure? Michael Jordan played 16 years in the NBA, won 6 titles. So that mean the other 9 years of failure? No. So, everybody was, like, oh man, that was such a dope answer and everything like that. So I stayed quiet about it because, I don't, always express my opinion on social media platforms too much. But I did want to talk about this because I did have a small issue with it. And so from my perspective, I felt like when Giannis heard that question, and I think Giannis did a really good job of keeping his answer not personal and not directed at the reporter and trying to speak openly and, broadly about the topic. But I felt like he initially took it personally and didn't catch himself fast enough. And the reason I say that is because when we talk about sports and specifically team sports, regardless of the level, all team sports have one common goal. One, you win. And that common goal is to win it all. So when I heard Giannis say, yes, we didn't win the championship this year, but it doesn't mean the year is a failure and things like that. Okay, that is a very optimistic way to look at, individual accomplishments and stuff like that. But as a team, you failed. As a team, you did not accomplish your team goal. Individually, everybody individually on that team can have individual successes and accomplish individual goals. But as a team, you fail. In team sports, the reason team sports are so revered and glorified and thousands of people invest millions of dollars into team sports is because that drive, that hunger, that desire to win it all, to be the final team standing at the end of the season is why all these individuals come together amongst a team to participate. And I think by him saying that, now, once again, are there some teams realistically that, okay, they might not have the squad that season to win it all, being realistic. And we know that. There are some teams that absolutely have no chance whatsoever of winning, a championship or anything like that. So in individual cases, are there some teams who might have maybe smaller goals of, hey, let's make the playoffs this year. We've been rebuilding our team. We got some quality pieces. Let's see if we actually got something here. Let's make the playoffs and then see what happens. Can that be a team goal? Absolutely. Let's say you're in complete rebuild mode. Like a team I know in the NFL that's going to be in complete rebuild mode after this season when they get rid of the quarterback, but I'm not going to name no names. When they go in complete rebuild mode, their goal might be, look, we're in complete rebuild. Let's have a winning season. Let's just be above 500. That would be an accomplishment for this team this season. I can understand that. I can live with that. I've been on teams like that. What I cannot live with, what I cannot accept is that when a team who is favored, a team that is loaded, a team that has top talent across the board, a team that has 3 of some of the 15 best players in the entire league, when their leader says, we didn't fail, even though we didn't win the championship, that's BS. I'm sorry.
So you consider the Eagles a failure because they lost the Super Bowl?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, let me back up.
Because you about to get hate mail.
I think it will. So now if you'd have asked me at the beginning of the season were the Eagles going to win the Super Bowl, I'd have told you hell no. Like, why would you even say they're going to
be you dogged them. You at the beginning of the season, you was like, they ain't going no way.
Right. So and I thought do what they always do. I think in the season for the Eagles, I think they overachieved, and whatever goal they had, they probably overachieved it. They made it to the Super Bowl. I don't think none of us expected it. Now I know your husband gonna be like, "Oh no, we expect to go every year." Don't sound like a cowboy, Eric. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't sound like no cowboy. But I think it's important to notice that in a situation like that, like I just said, oh, I'm frozen, so I don't even know if she
I can hear you.
Right now.
I can hear you. Keep talking. You were frozen, but we can hear you.
That's whenever I unfreeze, I can finish my point.
Give him a second, folks, to get his life together. He's coming back.
Somebody must not like what I was
saying. So for future reference, I could hear you. I couldn't, you were frozen, but we could still hear you. So he was in the process of going on his Eagles rant about whether or not they failed and what have you. And I personally think that I have mixed emotions about what he was saying, meaning that in part, I think that it takes into consideration what the ultimate goal was. Obviously, most teams want to win the championship. And if they don't, does it mean that you fail? I think that's subjective. And some people may say, hey, we failed because we didn't win the Lombardi or, whatever trophy it is that you're trying to get. And some people might say, hey, there's accomplishment to be celebrated because we went so much further than other teams. What came to mind to me is all the emphasis that's put on winning the division, right? So you win the division, but you don't go on and proceed through the playoffs to make it to the Super Bowl or to make it to the NBA championship or the MLB championship or whatever the case may be. Does that mean that you failed? I don't know. I don't wholeheartedly agree with that. So I think that we could debate it all day. I think it all depends on who you ask, whether you're asking a player, a coach, I think that it's a debate that won't be resolved dependent upon whoever it is that you're speaking to. So it's all good in the neighborhood. What I was trying to tell you, sir, is you were frozen, but we could still hear you. So, but anyway, you're back. So go ahead. Finish up what you were saying. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I had to log in through my phone because I was ready to throw my computer out the window, but I hope y'all didn't hear that part either.
It's okay.
I did hear you sound like you don't necessarily agree with my perspective on it. And that's cool.
It's subjective. I think that it's subjective because what I was sort of teasing out is, especially in football, right? And basketball too. There's all this emphasis on winning the division. We know that everybody starts the season wanting to go to whatever their respective championship game is and win the whole kit and caboodle. But at the end of the day, you have to think about who it is you're talking to. It's like people aren't talking about, oh, we failed when they win the division. There's so much hype that goes on about winning the division. And I've always said, who cares if you win the division if you don't win the Super Bowl? But it.
So I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that what I don't like about what Giannis said is Giannis is not just a regular NBA player. Mm-hmm. Giannis is regarded as the best player in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
You as the best player in the entire league cannot dismiss or poo-poo on how important it is for you as the best player in the league, a part of the best team in the league, to
Mm-hmm.
win a. Because here's
Mm-hmm.
what happens. Here's my 2 points for why this is detrimental. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, in the long run, because here's what happened, and I think what we're starting to see is a lot of these players are uber wealthy to this point. Giannis has like a $200 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
That financial motivation for him to be the best that he can be,
Mm-hmm.
probably very small at this point. You are financially set for the next probably 13 generations of your family
Mm-hmm.
with just a contract you got. So part of your drive and desire to be the best you can be financially is already gone because you've already got that taken care of. Now at this point, you are solely playing for the love of the game.
Mm-hmm.
We love basketball. We love football. Why? For the champions, for the greatest of all time. Because here's what's going to happen. At the end of Giannis' career, because they're already doing it now. And this is why I think this is a big issue. If you're a player like Giannis, you need to pay attention to this. If you just like a player like me, a role player and stuff like that, this conversation ain't for you. Because if you, whatever you get is probably an accomplishment for you. That's fine. However, when you are regarded as one of the best, and we start talking about who are the best players of their generation and of their time, what is one of the deciding factors we help decide that? Championships.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be considered one of the best, one of the greatest of your generation of all time if you don't win. Let's take football, for example. Dan Marino is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but we don't talk about him. Why? Because he did not win. John Elway will be a nobody. Why? Because his first 4 times to the Super Bowl got obliterated, got ran off the field. Only reason we revere John Elway as an all-time great is because he actually won 2 Super Bowls. Tom Brady would be a nobody without those 7 Super Bowls. Peyton Manning almost had that same. Look at Peyton Manning's career from the time he started to the time it ended. The first 10 years of his career, they were getting ready to call him a bust because, yes, he had all these regular season numbers, but every time he got to the postseason, he ran into Tom Brady or some fluke Tennessee team or something and got the doors blown off of him. It wasn't until they beat Chicago and then they go back and beat, when he's for Denver, he goes back and beat Carolina, that we sit there saying, oh, yeah, Peyton Manning is an all-time great. When you are considered an all-time great of your generation and of the sport, you don't get to sit there and simply say, oh, yeah, we didn't win it this year. It's all good. No, you failed this season. That's okay. We have to stop being so sensitive about the word failure. If you do not fail, you don't learn anything. If you just won all the time, if everybody was just allowed to win all the time, what will we appreciate? What will we value? We wouldn't value a championship if everybody in the NFL got a Super Bowl trophy at the end of the season. For what? We wouldn't value the NBA if everybody got a Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the season. For what? So yes, for individual teams and individual people, are there certain goals that might mean more to you than winning it all? Yeah, depending on your team, depending on the situation, yeah. But when you are considered one of the favorites, when you're considered one of the best teams in the league, and you're considered one of the greatest players of your generation and of all time, you do not get to rest on, oh, we didn't do it this year, we'll go back and try. You damn right you will. That's why we pay you so much money. You don't get to sit there and say, oh, because guess what? When his contract runs out and he goes to the Bucks and say, well, I need a new contract. Oh, man, well, we tried to give you more money. We want to give you more money. We failed. I'm sorry. We can't give you a new contract. We failed. He ain't going to want to hear that. He's not going to want to hear that. And here's another thing. If we start devaluing winning championships for team sports, why the hell are we paying y'all so many millions of dollars? If the championship got devalued because players are all going around saying, oh, it's bigger than the championship, it's bigger than the championship. No, it's not. In sports, no, it's not. Sports is not life. Sports is a part of life. Yes. Are there things that you should really be stressed about, worried about in the real world? Yes. Bills, family, crime, things like that. That's real stressful stuff. That's real. Basketball is not that stressful compared to life. It can be stressful. There are stressful moments. But you trying to compare you losing the championship, you failing in life, you took that personal. I'm sorry. You took it personal. That's BS. We cannot have our best players and our best teams poo-pooing on not winning a championship and dismissing it as, I mean, well, so because we didn't win this year, we failed? Yes, you did. Yes, it's that simple. You failed. It's very that simple. Go back and win it next year. It's that simple. I'm sorry.
Can we move on?
Yeah,
You're muted. So, before we go hard with this topic for today for these next 30 minutes, I had a couple of shout outs. I had the distinct pleasure of meeting with Drew DiBiase yesterday. She's doing some extraordinary work in Colorado with professional athletes and mindfulness training. Just doing outstanding work. And it was so funny because when we were meeting, her level of passion, Ronnie, sound like you talking, right? She was on 100. And, you know, we're just talking about the systemic and the holistic, the what have you. And I'm like, I didn't think, I mean, when I, you know, had read her profile and everything in preparation for the meeting, I was like, I don't remember her being a clinician, but she sounds like a clinician, like that passion and that fire that was coming out. But she is extremely well-versed and very well trained in the area of mindfulness. And she is doing some extraordinary work with professional athletes all over the country. She is located in Colorado. So folks, make sure you look her up. The name of her organization is Drewsome, DREWSOME LLC. So really excited to be in collaboration with her on some things that we have coming up. Also thought that it was really wonderful and just such a tremendous humane act that Commissioner Goodell and the NFL honored the families of the UVA players that were killed back in November, Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis, and Devin Chandler's families. I just thought that was just such an amazing and beautiful thing to do. You know me, I cry. And every year during a draft, something happens that make me cry. And I'm like, I'm not gonna cry this year. And then here he comes. I was like, I'm boo-hooing. We forgot to mention last week that Damar Hamlin has been cleared to play. Ronnie has informed me that I'm not allowed to speak publicly on my opinion about that. So I'm not going to say anything other than we wish him well. We will continue to lift him in prayer and wish him tremendous success in his future endeavors. And that's all I have, Ronnie. Let's talk about no I in team.
No I team. There's me in there. There is a me in there. And so, you know, I mean, well, you gotta move a few letters around and things like that to get to me. But isn't that the definition of I in team? Is an individual going above and beyond to make it about them?
Maybe. Maybe. I think it all depends on who you ask.
Right, and you know, when we talk about teams and teamwork and things like that, what are some of the most cliche things you hear coaches say? You know, there's no I in team. You're as good as the weakest player on the team. You know, we're only as good as our team goes. We'll only go as far as you all allow us to go. Things like that.
You're only as strong as your weakest link, which i.e. your weakest player.
Right. And we hear all these things so many times, and you know, that's why I always when we talked about I think we talked about it with our guests a couple weeks ago when we talked about, you know, team sports and individual sports. You know, individual sports, boxing, track, things like that. You know, it's all about you, and the coaches are all there to help you. Yes, a lot of, you know, especially like track athletes and stuff like that, as a team, they're together as a team, but for them individually, they get to focus on one thing. Being part of a team is almost like entering a different family, like entering a new family. And one of the reasons that I love football so much is because one of the great things about football is that a football team normally has the most members of any other team sport out there, and really get a sense of the local community that football team plays in, because that football team oftentimes is a microcosm of that society, of that community, you know. But what is the definition of a team player? When we talk about what it means to be a team player and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So a team player is someone who actively contributes to their group in order to complete tasks, meet goals, and achieve them. So team players can actively listen to their teammates, they respect ideas, and they aim to improve the team success at hand. So, but how do you do that? What do you go about doing that? What are some things that players need to know and understand about what it means to be a good team player? Number one, understand your role. And kind of talked about this in our last segment, in my rant and everything. And I think one of the most important things to understand about teams, understanding, first of all, the personnel on your team and having each member understand their role. And I'll give a great example. And I've talked about this before. As an offensive lineman, your role is to be seen, but not heard. Mm-hmm. How many times hear your parents saying that growing up? Hey, look, I need you to be seen, but not heard. Mm-hmm. That's offensive lineman. Our role, and a lot of times, and we'll just talk, I just take football for this little bit right here. But when we talk about football, who normally gets all the glory and stuff? Quarterback, running back, receivers, maybe a linebacker if it's a really good linebacker, maybe a defensive back if they're really good. Mm-hmm. But for our offensive linemen kind of go just unobserved unless they get a holding penalty, false start, they don't snap the ball, or in the case of Trent Williams last year in the playoff game, you start knocking folk out, But one of the things that offensive linemen understand is that our role is equally as important as a quarterback's role, if not more. We might not get the verbal praise, we might not get the verbal adulation, but as far as importance amongst the team, if you simply do not have those 5 people there blocking for the quarterback, blocking for the running back, the quarterback and the running back and the remaining receivers cannot do their job at all. But as linemen, we can't be worried about going out there trying to run routes and catch the ball when our role is right here in front of us. Mm-hmm. That's important to understand. I think also, too, as far as understanding your role and knowing your role is, and this is maybe from a coach's point of view, is when you have a star player or a star athlete on your team, making sure that you put them in position to where they can maximize their role, but also the other teammates on that team can understand and not feel, one, overwhelmed or over blemished by the star athlete, but that their roles all line up in sync. And when we speak about basketball in that sense of, basketball typically is where you have one great player and then everybody else is kind of like really good and really decent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you see how basketball teams are formulated where you have this really great player, but then you have this role, the supporting cast beside them that can do their job really well. You might have one person that can play really good defense on the perimeter. You might have one person that can go stand in the corner and knock down threes all game. You might have another person that's really good at communicating and passing and distributing the ball, but they are not the main player, but they understand their role. I think that is one of the most important things when we talk about teammates and teamwork is knowing your role. When you know your role and you focus on your role, you give your team a better chance at success. Mm-hmm. When you look at football is nothing more than synchronized swimming just on a field. When you think about linemen, you have 5 offensive linemen who have to move in synchrony. And, not to get too technical or anything like that, but when you see offenses running zone schemes and stuff like that, and for those who know what zone schemes are, if you ever look at an offensive line when you're running a zone scheme, more times than not, all 5 linemen are moving in the same direction. So if we're running the ball to the left and we're doing zone left, you can literally watch all 5 linemen damn near take the step at the same time going the same way. It's beautiful to look at. But it took 5 individuals to know their individual role to make the team look good. That's important. Thoughts on that, Dr. Pitts, before I move on to the next one?
I don't have a thought. Go ahead. I don't. I mean, that's not true. So, yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I'm like, I just kept hearing the word blown assignment, right? Like if you do not do what you're supposed to do, i.e. not doing your job, then it throws everything off and you end up with penalties. You end up with all types of, you end up with injuries.
Right. Oh,
How many times have we seen that because a tackle was missed? And, you used the term dollywop. How did you It's like, how did that happen? You see, you always hear this expression, the running back ran it straight up the gut.
Yep.
It didn't, or these plays where they go into the end zone untouched. What just happened? What were you supposed to be doing?
Right.
The quarterback, look, that Jalen Hurts just ran smooth in and nobody touched him.
And what are you
going on right now?
Like that, you see the DB stuff, and then I thought you had him. No, you had him.
Everybody's still looking dumb. Everybody got a dumb face. So yes, so I totally agree that if you are not doing your job, and you see it in real time, you see it in the movies, do your job. And if you don't do your job, it's going to be hell to pay in the locker room, because you're going to get your back kicked in. The case in point, and I bring it up often, remember a couple of seasons ago, when the Redskins were still the Redskins.
Oh, yeah. Two defensive linemen.
Yeah, and they got to fighting each other on the sideline. Oh my gosh.
They were college teammates too. That's the crazy part.
It's like, okay, so if you don't do your job, your own teammate liable to beat you up on the sideline. What is going on right now?
Oh yeah,
that's real. So it's serious. It is definitely something that people need to take seriously and not pass the buck, and take responsibility and accountability. You'll see that even with quarterbacks, if they overthrow the receiver, you know what, that was on me. You'll see the receivers, that was on me. It's like, what were you doing over there? And I was throwing it. What are you doing? My bad. So you have to do that. But then there's times that you don't. Then there's times people don't take accountability and responsibility. It was like, nah, bro, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You weren't where you were supposed to be. So don't go looking over there. That's you. Own it.
Right.
But yeah.
And I'm glad that, because that was my next tip, is being able to hold yourself accountable. Talked about, like you said, it's one thing to know your role and do your role, but when you miss it, you don't do your role. Yes. Coach might, bust your butt and everything and yell at you and, hey, pay attention, wake up while you're here, all those type of things. But, also too, part of being a great team and being great teammates is being able to police your own as well too, because sometimes in the midst of the game, you can have where, let's say, for example, I've had where one of my guards had gotten to one of the defensive linemen because they just been bickering back and forth. And now see where his mind is all on, I'm just trying to destroy him. After the game, I'm trying to destroy him. And you, as a great team leader and a teammate, you got to be like, hey, bro, look, hey, that's not right. That's not important now. Doing, just continue to do your job. Stop letting them talk. Ignore it. Sometimes you have to your own teammates and everything and hold them accountable, and also hold yourself accountable too. I've seen times where, funny enough, in the championship game in 2014, our punter, he was a freshman punter and everything, but he literally shanked the punt and it only went 11 yards, and we were already on our own 20-yard line. And as opposed to in the moment, him holding himself accountable, that was a bad punt, that's on me. Coach got into him. He literally almost quit during the game. Literally almost quit during the game. We probably could have punted better than he could in that game anyways, because he didn't have a punt. He didn't have a single punt over 20 yards, which is embarrassing as a college punter. That's neither here nor there. But when we tried to hold him accountable, he lashed out, had a little, temper tantrum on the sideline and everything. But, that's an example right there of not really working in favor of your team. So it's really important.
Can I speak to that for a minute?
Go ahead.
Because I think that, and I'm glad that you gave that example, because I think on a much deeper level, me and my systems thinking, I think on a much deeper level, that speaks to who he is at his core, right? It's those scenarios are indication that this is a deeper issue, that if you look back over that person's life, you'll probably be able to pinpoint specific occasions where that was his MO. He didn't take responsibility and accountability. Well, guess what, people? That's learned. That's learned. That's saying that you grew up in an environment, you were permitted to not take responsibility or accountability. I was looking for it while you were speaking. There was a phenomenal quote that was on LinkedIn this morning from the women's basketball coach, I believe in South Carolina. And you see that? And she was talking about how parents are so busy protecting their kids from wanting to experience failure because they don't want them to go through what they went through, that in essence, you're enabling them. In essence, you're infringing upon their ability to actually learn from their mistakes and to take responsibility and accountability for whatever it was that transpired that led to the perceived failure. So what I really appreciated about that is, again, it speaks to that systemic piece, right? And so oftentimes we talk about parents trying to live vicariously through their athletes. Well, all of that's tied together. That's the systemic piece, right? This kid didn't just show up miraculously at a Virginia State game and have a bad game punting and just all of a sudden wasn't accountable. That is a behavior that he had been demonstrating, my guess would be, throughout the entire course of his life. So we talk about this all the time. Athletes do not live in a bubble. They're men. They're people, they're women, they're boys, they're girls that have learned a whole lot of behaviors, many of which are not serving them well in the athletic setting. And oh, by the way, they got coached up, or they have really raw talent and they're extraordinary as far as their athletic performance, right, but their people skills are trash.
Yeah. And if I were to tell you more about our punter on that team, you would be like, oh yeah, he was very entitled. He came from I don't know what family socioeconomics were, but he came from a very affluent area in northern Chesterfield, Rico actually. So yeah, no, that description right there, that wasn't a one-time thing. That was actually the course of the season. Every time he got cursed at, he would throw a temper tantrum and things like that. So yeah, that's actually a really great point. And Coach Staley's point, this is why to argue Giannis's point, there are failures in sports. Like there just is. Without failure, you don't learn anything. Yeah. Moving on. Another great point, and I think this is really important, especially when you get to the collegiate level as a teammate, being flexible. What does that mean? So a lot of times we see this happen all the time. A lot of times the position you play in high school might not be the position you play in college. And so just a quick example, I've shared this example before. When I was in high school, I played guard and tackle. And I was being recruited by Virginia State. I was being recruited to come in and fill in their left guard position. First day of summer camp, first day of summer practice, I walk out on the field. My O-line coach looks at me and says, "Hey, I need you to go practice with the centers." And I'll tell everybody, when he first looked at me and said that, I looked at him and was like, who want to play center? You'd have thought there was an owl out there. I was against it. I hated it, didn't like it. I love it. But also, more importantly, in the grand scheme, in the long term of things, me being in that position allowed us to have other players come in and fill those positions that you didn't need me to move up and down the line. I could stay at one position. We had people come in and fill those positions, and we were able to build a cohesion and a bond together to work together that propel us in the final 2 years of my career. But a lot of times, players don't understand that some situations, you might have been a phenomenal running back, tight end, in college, in high school, but when you get to college, we said this before, when you get to college, everybody was phenomenal at their school. Right. Everybody was best. And you might have something that a coach might see in you that you might not have seen in yourself yet, and they're trying to walk you through and work you through and highlight that and expose it to you so you are not just this one-dimensional or two-dimensional player. You are an athlete. Yeah. And sometimes as players, we have to be able to pull our head out our what to be able to see what we're doing. We've seen this also with Lamar Jackson when he was going to the draft. And, granted, it worked out in his favor. We also see this happen to the professional levels where you might play a position in college, but the only way you drafted to make it to the NFL is you might have to
play a different position.
Being flexible, because your individual goals and stuff like that, once again, have to mesh and align with the team goals. If your individual goals and preferences do not mesh or align with the team, you will clash, and it'll be all. So being able to be flexible and understand the flexibility of you and the position amongst your team is important sometimes for doing it for the team.
I that's a great point, and it reminds me one of our players on the Cowboys, Tyron Smith. It was this when one of our players got injured and they were moving him from I think right tackle to left tackle, and it was an adjustment, but he was willing to do it. And there, truth be told, there was grace extended while he was making that adjustment. But the flip side of that coin that I think that it's really important to point out, because there's been a lot of chatter about it this week with the NFL draft, is how previously in the NFL, Black quarterbacks were discouraged and not welcomed in the league as a Black quarterback, and they were being required to change their position because they were deemed not smart enough, not agile enough, not talented enough. And so the highlight that's being placed on the draft this year is the fact that what we had three Black quarterbacks that were being looked at, and this monumental shift that's happening in the league that is worthy, is worthy of being discussed. It's worthy of being highlighted, because I know I'm not the only one that noticed, but at the very beginning of the draft, when they brought all of the players out that were, those 4 front runner players that were anticipated to go in the first round, all of them were Black except for the young man from Kentucky. And we see he didn't go in the first round. So I think that it's something to be said, but particularly at that quarterback position, and even some of the quarterback, the Lamar Jackson, used to be Russell Wilson. Why am I drawing a blank on Kansas City's quarterback?
Oh,
what is his name? Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, Donovan McNabb, some of those really, really, really phenomenal, agile quarterbacks that are like, yo, are you a quarterback? Like, yo, you dragging the whole freaking line. But it's that versatility. It's that versatility that you speak of that makes them a double threat, a triple threat to be able to get it done. The flip side of it is the not the flip side, the New Orleans, that backup quarterback for the Saints. Yes, also it was like, stop giving him the ball. He's like, he is
that's a great example of somebody being flexible to get on the field. They always say get on the field and flexible.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. So they're like, okay, are they putting him in as a running back? Are they putting him in as a quarterback? Are they putting him in as a receiver? That boy's doing everything. He's phenomenal. He is absolutely positively phenomenal. So I absolutely positively agree with you around the flexibility piece. What's your next point?
So my final two characteristics of what make a quality teammate are you must have a positive attitude and you commit to the team. And I think
can I go first this time?
Go ahead. You got it. Go ahead.
So I love, because I wrote it down. I was like, I know he's gonna say it. The whole mindset of attitude reflects leadership. That is so important. Absolutely. That is so important, so important, so important. Whether you're in sports or in business or in life, you can look at the team culture as it relates to the overall attitude, and you can literally pick out the players. You can pick them out. You can tell from their interviews. You can tell from their attitude and their behavior during the game. You can tell, even some of the things that we hear about them in the media, who just has trashy attitude. And it makes all the difference in the world, I believe, in the longevity of their careers, regardless whether we're talking high school, collegiate, or pros. In any sport, it is their attitude is going to either sustain the longevity of their careers, barring injury, or it's going to shorten, because that attitude, it's like when I think about, you already took your cheap shots about my Dallas Cowboys, but when I think about, the different things that people have said about you know, some of the issues that the Cowboys have had over the years with players with legal issues. But one of the things that I believe that people will agree on, Jerry Jones ain't about no grit. You shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. You can do a whole bunch of stuff, but Jerry Jones ain't about no crazy attitude. He is not about no crazy attitude, and you will hear on talk radio that you don't have a job. You were out of there. You were out of there. You think about players like T.O. You think about players like Antonio Brown and some others that phenomenal. I mean, just absolutely extraordinary athletes. But that attitude, and they was in their head, and it cost them their career prematurely, and it's so unfortunate. Go ahead.
I think another important part about that too, like you said, is that when we talk about the team, it's big for you. And the reason I say that is, and I shared this
answer in the locker room.
Right. And so, and on top of that, when you come in as a freshman on a college team, you know, when you are a high school senior and stuff like that, and you're being recruited by all these colleges, you are seeing the best version of the coaches, you know, whatever players they've identified from the team to, you know, walk you on your recruiting trip and stuff like that. You are being the absolute best that the school has to offer. But when you go out there day one of summer training, you're seeing the real.
Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed, and I've said this before, one of the first things I noticed about when I got to Virginia State is how the older players, how the juniors and seniors on the team did not have that mutual respect for the coaches. You know, for me being recruited by the coaches and being a scholar athlete, you know, they talked to me a certain way, treated me a certain way, made me feel like, you know, hey, everything's gonna be, you know, taken care of. You get out, start talking to some of the players who've been there 3, 4, 5 years and see how things go. You starting to see like, this ain't really, you know, like this ain't how it's supposed to go. Then you got you know, the seniors not coming to meetings, you know, arguing and stuff, trying to fight the coaches and everything. So when I say it's bigger than the individual as far as having a positive attitude, it's bigger than you because when you're in a position of a leader, when you're a team captain or one of the, you know, position leaders and stuff, you have to understand how you handle these situations with coaches, other teammates, and things like that. The younger players see that, and that's their ticket to say, "Oh, well, he can do it." Yeah, senior, and they ain't saying nothing to him, so why can't I do it? So when having a positive attitude is more than just how you talk to people individually, it's how you handle those situations as well too. And then close it up when we talk about committing to the team. You have to be all in. You have. It's just like being in a family, just like being in a relationship or marriage, whatever the case may be. You have to be all in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give
and if
y'all.
You're not, it shows, and it doesn't take long.
Right. It can't be I give y'all 75% of myself, but I'm gonna keep this 25 here just in case something go wrong. No, have to be all in as a teammate.
Sold out for the team.
Right. And so if you feel like some of these characteristics that we've just described are things that you are working on or maybe have not really grasped yet, here are some things you can do to become a better teammate. Number one, ask for help, you know? And what I mean by that, if you're a freshman, or even if you're a player who's been on the team for a couple of years, but you know, you're trying to find your place within the team, you're trying to find your role, trying to, you know, find your value within the team, cling on to an upperclassman, cling on to a senior or a junior or something like that, or somebody, a team captain who's well established, you know, and knows how to handle those situations that can talk to you. Sometimes players, you know, we always say, you know, when we ask for help, go talk to a coach or something like that. And a lot of players might not feel comfortable going and talk to coaches or administration about, you know, vulnerable things about where do I fit amongst the team, you know, or I don't feel like I have a role amongst the team, or I don't feel like, you know, I'm accepted. Those are conversations you have with your team captains, your position leaders, the upperclassmen, because they can give you and relate to you in that sense of they're in your age bracket, they're currently doing what you're doing from your perspective, from your side of the position and everything. So being able to their insight and cling on to them can kind of help you become a better teammate. With that, actively listening. I always tell people, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should listen more, talk less, unless you mean you talk too much. But, you know, hey, you learn. Communication. One of the biggest things that can build a team or break a team is communication. If kids cannot communicate with each other, if you can't talk when things are going great and you can't talk when things are absolutely horrible, you do not have a solid, sound team. communication is huge.
Yeah.
Just as important as communication. Communication might be 1A. 1B is respect.
Mm.
You
That's powerful.
have to respect the people that you walk in the locker room with and the coaches in the coaching office. Because if you show no respect, once again, just like we talked about with being being committed to the team and also having a positive attitude, having that respect is bigger than you as the teammate. People are watching, fans, younger players, parents, administration have to show respect. Be a problem solver. One of the biggest things that teams can always do is police themselves. When you have an issue amongst a team, being able to problem solve amongst a team that keeps coaches, administration, police, news, any type of negative attention and things like that you can police amongst yourself, be great problem solvers. And my last tip on how to be a better teammate is celebrating other teammates' success. Once again, and I get it, especially at the collegiate level, when you get to college, everybody's a man, everybody was all state, all conference, all those things. But if you find yourself on the bench, or you find yourself, maybe you've lost your starting position to injury, or maybe the person behind you is just better than you. Yeah. And I think, and to summarize this example right here, think of Hurts when he was at Alabama. If there's one way I could paint this picture, when Jalen Hurts was at Alabama in the championship game against Georgia, he got pulled at halftime for Tua Tagovailoa. Tua game, Jalen Hurts was just as happy for Tua, but it wasn't about Tua. And Jalen Hurts said that. He said, "Man, we just won the national championship. Right. We." He didn't say he. He didn't say me. He said we. Right. I can't summarize that answer better than that, because that is an all-time classic example of somebody being a phenomenal teammate and celebrating another teammate's success.
Can I speak to that for a quick second? Because he said with all this money that he got, he said all the money is good, but I want to win championships.
Right.
He just said it because he's got a beast of a contract too.
Yeah, absolutely.
His contract's a beast too.
Shout out to black women that's been negotiating contracts too.
Yeah.
Alma Jackson, I think her name is Lynn Nicole or something like that. Nicole Lynn, Jalen Hurts' agent. Shout out to all and out here negotiating phenomenal deals. Shout out to you all.
Indeed.
So, I ain't got nothing else on top of that. I'm good.
So real quick, as we're wrapping up, so I'm jumping from the show today. In a few minutes, I'm going to be interviewed on Claim Your Potential podcast with Sophie Lindbergh. Her podcast, her podcast is dedicated to empowering women and girls of all ages. So super duper excited about that. She wants to talk about business and financial, academic, emotional, professional empowerment of women. So I'm so excited and so honored to appear as a guest on her podcast. So check her out. It's Claim Your Potential with Sophie Lindbergh. Just doing some extraordinary work for women's empowerment. She's on Apple Podcasts, so you can definitely download that and check that out if you're a woman or girl, if you know a woman or girl that could definitely benefit from being empowered. Hey, Ronnie.
What's up?
Guess what? You know that since I was a little kid, my favorite color has always been majestic purple. And next week, we have the purple and white.
Oh, yeah.
Frogs in the house next week. Folks, you do not want to miss next week's show. Oh my God, we are so excited. We are so hyped, so hyped about next week's show. It is going to be an extraordinary show. And you know what? I just want to go ahead and put this preliminary announcement out there so that we can start to raise the excitement. The lineup that is falling in place for the 2023-2024 season of House Talk Pregame is off the freaking charts, man. When I say the guests that we have confirmed already for like the first couple of months, and it's just like, the request from athletes, former professional athletes, current coach, I give all praise, honor, and glory to God. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what your belief system is. That's mine. That's ours. And we thank God for the fact that so many people all over the country, and truth be told, around the world, are hearing this message that we are putting out with so much heart and passion each and every single solitary week. We count it an honor and a privilege to be able to work with the people that we are working with. This lineup, we are, look, Ronnie, the remainder of this season, the remaining, what we've got, today's the 22nd, so we got, today's the 29th, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shows left for this season. We're loaded. The bases are loaded. the bases are loaded. We on the 1 yard line, about to score. There's 4 seconds left on the clock, and Michael Jordan has the ball. Like, yo, we are doing the darn thing, and I'm humbled and I'm grateful, and I am so incredibly thankful for the people just all over that see the value in this content that we are so committed to putting out, that they want to be a part of our discussion. So super excited about what's to come on HT, but y'all don't want to miss next week. Next week gonna be real. We're probably gonna go over next week. Next week probably gonna be an hour and a half show, you know, because it's real. It's gonna get real next week. So super duper excited. That's all we have, folks. It's Saturday. It's 55 cold degrees in Fort Worth. I'm feeling some type of way, but it's okay. Y'all have a wonderful Saturday. Yep. The NFL draft is on for rounds 5, 6, and for rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you don't want to miss that. Yep. And enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you back here next weekend with purple. Purple is the theme color next Saturday, folks. Wear your purple. Wear your purple. Show your love. Show your love.
Great show too on the other podcast. Have a great show.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, look, y'all tune in back next week. Got a phenomenal show. As always, we appreciate everybody. Until next time.
Peace.